Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday night. I just blew the entire budget on our brand new intro, so it won't be that much of a show today. Unfortunately, we're here tonight. This is the first episode of Society Reviews Movies, and we're going to be here tonight talking about two new films that came out recently. We're talking about Jurassic World Dominion, and we're also going to talk about the new Adam Sandler film on Netflix called Hustle. So, two very different movies. We have a brand new cast of crew here, so if you're joining us normally for our barroom podcast or our Saturday movie night, you may have seen Rob Model here once before. He is back with us to talk about the movie today, but we do have a new face here with us this week. Mr. Rick, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Rick. So essentially, what's going on here is that I brought two of my good movie review friends that I've known for quite some time. We've obviously been reviewing movies for years. I met Rick time in San Diego down in Gaslamp. Obviously known Rob for a little while, so I wanted to bring movie guys on to talk movies. Obviously, I wanted to get a good discussion here, and I think we picked some pretty good movies this week because I know that both of our movies, me and Rob probably have completely opposite views of. So this is going to be a little bit of a conflict here, to say the least. I haven't really gotten into Rick's head about what he feels about some of these films, so it'll give us a fresh little opinion to get on here. And then we'll play a couple of short videos leading into the movie. We'll talk about the movie in depth. And then hopefully we'll have some other guests that may be joining us later on as well. But I want to give a shout out to our friend in the chat who's here tonight. Mr. D-Man is joining us here. I also wanted to go ahead and let you guys know now we are currently streaming live on both YouTube and Twitch because I'm going to be trying a couple of new things here tonight. So just in case YouTube decides that we're not allowed to do certain things, we will stay live on Twitch. I guarantee you that they won't pull us down, unlike YouTube. But, we have to navigate around the landmine. But what better time to do that than our very first episode here? So I want to go ahead before we get started, just get people introduced to our new guest here. So, Mr. Rob Model, give a little bit of explanation to your background, especially when it comes to film and film review.
Sure. I mean, I've been on Twitter basically since 2012, but I didn't get seriously into kind of movie reviews until about 2014, 2015. I mean, I just love movies. I love movies, super old movies from the 70s especially, but just in general, I love movies. And I've been suspended on Twitter. There's a lot of people who hate me because I just kind of try to be honest about what's going on in the culture, just with favoritism, tokenism. There's a lot of just nonsense going on in intellectual property, comic book movies. So I'm not well liked. I try to be the adult at the table and kind of be like, our past generations, like, at least attempted to be adults. Are we going to maybe try that a little bit? So I try to bring a little common sense, a little perspective. Even though I am a millennial, I don't really fall in line with my generation on a lot of views and a lot of things. So I'm kind of an old fart when it comes to a lot of the things I like, in terms of like traditional cinema. But I just like good movies, and I want movies to get away from ideology and just be about craft and good filmmaking and telling a good story. So that's pretty much my 2 cents.
And Mr. Contrarian Critic, who has a great reputation online, depending on how you define great. And then, of course, Mr. Rick, I know you have a site that I wanted to talk about a little bit too, but why don't you give a little bit of an introduction of to who you are and basically your history in film and film review as well. So introduce yourself to the group.
I've been affiliated with the Online Film Critic Society for 11 years now. And nice. When I look at a movie, I judge it by what it's trying to do. I don't have a great standard of, this is art. So when I see something, if it makes me laugh, it's good. If it's supposed to be a comedy, if it makes me laugh, but it's not supposed to, then we have problems. So my philosophy is judge a film by what it's trying to do, not by some like grand level of, this is important. Sometimes those really quote important movies can be insufferable. I can't sit through them. So that's just mainly my view, my site. Well, it used to be Rick's Cafe Texan because I love Casablanca, but it's now Rick's Texan Reviews because I am Texan. I'm that little sliver of Texas that is in mountain time. So I appreciate you guys coming in this late.
Now, don't worry, we got Mr. Model here all the way from Washington, so you're not the farthest away
Oh,
in here today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only person who's really suffering time wise is me because I'm here on the East Coast at 10 o'clock on the dot. But just a little thing about that. But and then just a little background on me. Some of you guys may have seen me on other podcasts. I did Culture Casino last Sunday. That went really well. You may have seen me on Bounding in the Comics, and if you've seen some of my videos that I've done here on the YouTube channel, but you don't really know my background. I started Society Reviews almost 6 years ago. We're coming up on our 6 year anniversary. And when I started that site, my whole thing was I just wanted to review movies. I was already at the point where I was watching almost 70 movies a year, like new movies a year, every single year. And I was like, well, I watch so many movies, I take so many time like go watching these films that I might as well, write something about it and could contribute a little bit. So I started Society Reviews as a WordPress blog back in the day. I was strictly movie reviews for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And then I started noticing that, especially after the election of Donald Trump in 2016, that a lot of these movies started to injecting more and more politics in the films. And I wanted to just, stay neutral and just cover movies as they were. But it was kind of hard to ignore a lot of the things that we were seeing, a lot of things that we were being given in the theater. So I had to change up a little bit. I started doing a little bit more movie news over the last few years. I've done entertainment news. I've done editorials all on my site, societyreviews.com. You can find it on your own time there. So I've been doing movie reviews from my own site. I've had well over 500 reviews on the site there right now. I've done movie reviews for Zinger News for the last couple of years. They posted a great catalog of my things over the last few years there. I'm now doing reviews for Bounding in the Comics. I just posted the review for the movie we're going to talk about a little bit later on, Jurassic Park Dominion, on there. I've also had movie reviews featured on other websites, the Daily Mail, the Daily Caller. I've had one link for Fox News as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just brag that one to the day that I die because that's my one big claim to fame. I guess. Why
yeah,
not?
it's great.
So obviously all of us here, we all love movies. We've all been involved with movies for a very, very long time. We're all passionate about movies. So there's no better group here to talk about some of the movies that we have coming up on our schedule. And I guess we should go ahead and get this out of the way. I want to get a couple of D-Man's comments on here. Said, watch Hustle the other day. Pretty good flick. Yeah, we will talk about that movie later tonight. Saudi reviews from my wrestling commentary. Well, I had to tell you, we're not going to be talking about wrestling here tonight. We're not going to talk about certain people who blew a .295. I didn't even know you can be conscious and drink that much, but apparently you learn new things every day. So There you go. So let's go ahead and just get this thing rolling. So everyone here has seen the new movie Jurassic World Dominion. So I want to go ahead and give a short little clip here and show you guys exactly what we're going to be talking about. So let's change views. Yes, Jurassic World Dominion, a movie that is now in theaters as we speak. It's made oodles of money, as you can say, at the box office over the last few days or so. Let's go ahead and let's basically catch you up exactly to how we got to this point. So this is the sixth movie of the Jurassic Park franchise and the third movie in the Jurassic World era. So we've had three movies with Chris Pratt and Bryce Howard, who I know Rob loves very, very much. We'll get to that in a second. So, if you guys don't remember, we last left off on Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. That was a film that came out in 2018. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you guys felt about that movie, but I absolutely hated that film. I went back. I knew it was in my top 10 worst of the year. I was shocked to see that there was actually 8 movies worse than that film, because when I started going back and thinking about just how bad that movie was, I started getting visibly angry about how dumb it was. So, if you remember the events of the last film, there was a giant volcano that was threatening to kill all of the dinosaurs on this little tiny island, right? So in other words, we had brought back dinosaurs. They had got loose. We capped them to one little island. The island was going to explode, essentially solving all the world's problems. And our heroes decided that it'd be a good idea to save the dinosaurs and doom humanity, which is exactly how the last film ended up. Because if you remember, in the last movie, the little girl decided to save all the dinosaurs on the planet. Why? Because they're clones just like her. And then cue the happy ending in the sunset. It's like, okay, so the happy ending of this film is that we're all dead. Great job, guys. Those are your protagonists. Those are your heroes, ladies and gentlemen. So we're right from that film. We're jumping off immediately after the events of that movie. It's been a few years since that happened, and dinosaurs are basically just all over the planet now. They're basically as common as bears and wolves in the woods. You got velociraptors running around completely unattended. You have giant, massive dinosaurs walking around construction sites. Everything's just completely great. But believe it or not, despite the fact that there's like giant, megalodons swimming in the seas attacking crab boats, they are not the biggest threat to humanity right now. No, the biggest threat is genetically modified locusts who are rapidly eating the world's food supply and creating massive food shortages and famine across the planet. So a little bit of predictive programming there, maybe if you're into the conspiracy side of things, but we'll get to that one on another day. So, of course, because the food supply is about to go kaput, we decided to bring back our old Jurassic World characters, Jurassic Park characters, I should say. Sam Neill, Laura Dern are returning as their roles as oh shit, just lost it. Okay, Dr. Edley Sadler and Dr. Ian Malcolm, and we're also bringing back Jeff Goldblum, who in the last film only had a glorified cameo, even though he was in all the promotional for that one. You will only see him in the last 2 minutes of that movie, so that's another reason why that movie was absolutely terrible. Meanwhile, our other cast of characters, Chris Pratt and Howard, are on the run essentially in the mountains with the clone girl from the last movie who absolutely doomed humanity, and now she's an angsty little teenager who doesn't want to listen to her new parents and ends up getting herself kidnapped. So they have to go literally halfway across the world to find the little girl, only for her to get kidnapped again and sent back where to where they left in the first place. So they have to retravel across the other side of the planet to get back to where they are in order to capture her from Biosyn, which is essentially Pfizer, even though they're unofficially what they're supposed to be.
Right.
They're the new evil company that wants to essentially take the data from these dinosaurs and from the genetically modified locusts to create a new genocode, because I guess they realized that they massively screwed up over the course of the last 3 movies. That pretty much goes without saying, and they're trying to fix their problem, but they need the little girl in order to solve it because only she has the genetic code to save humanity. So before we get into the big details of that story, I want to go ahead and get your guys' thoughts on what you felt about the movie in general, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. So I want to start off with Rob. What did you think about Jurassic World Dominion? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And tell us why.
Sure. I mean, I would say that the bar was very low for me. This was very low to begin with. I wasn't expecting
extremely.
anything. I don't even think I saw Fallen Kingdom or the previous movie. I don't think I saw it. So the clone girl was I was kind of just playing catch up a little bit with that. But so the plot's not very good. It's just it's kind of the franchise formula of we're going to go take you many different places. We're going to chase around, we're going to run around, figure it out, and then end up in one final location with, all of these different action set pieces. Having said all of that, I actually really enjoyed myself because the chases, the like sort of jump scares that are in there, but are actually done pretty well. The editing of the action scenes is done well. I really liked the dinosaurs, like I said, the chases, and even if the human characters aren't that compelling, they're at least there to be, to get chased. And I felt like the movie did a pretty good job with that. But yeah, I just overall it was much more about the spectacle of this kind of final movie. But yeah, outside of that, it was a good time. It was a good time with the movies.
Okay, Rick, you're the one who's on there. I'm going to talk about my thoughts about it in just a second. I want to get your thoughts on the film. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Give us a quick little rundown before we talk about it in detail.
Well, I think I mentioned this to you earlier. It wasn't as funny as the last one. So I don't know why.
For good reasons or wrong reasons.
Well, I'll tell you the Fallen Kingdom I thought was one of the funniest movies of the year. I was laughing, so I enjoyed it. I thought that was a romp. This one, I would take a slight issue with something that Rob said. He said he enjoyed the plot. There were 2 plots. There were at least 2 plots in this whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there was the Owen Claire story. There was the Sadler Grant, Malcolm story,
Mhm.
and they kind of just ran parallel. At a certain point, they cross, and then
Right.
they diverge again. So uh, I I didn't hate it, but I just thought it was unnecessary. I mean, you could have done a whole movie just with the old cast. You could have done a whole movie with the new cast, but you kind of had two movies put together, and there were a lot. I hope we get into this. There were a lot of questions that I had
No,
about
yes.
I just
certain
ignored them. So
things. There are things I didn't understand, and worse, my memory was so bad from Fallen Kingdom that when I
Mhm.
was watching it, I thought the clone was American. So why is she speaking with a British accent? But then I was corrected. No, she was British. I was really? I don't even remember
Uh,
that part.
okay. See,
I
I
honestly,
get British and Australian accents mixed up, so you can't ask me. I couldn't tell you what it was.
I know
Yeah.
it wasn't. You see, for me, Fallen Kingdom was a romp. It was just something I laughed at and I thought
Yeah.
was just mindless. This one was, yeah, it wasn't good. It was kind of pointless, and you really you could just cut out one group, have that movie, and then that's it. And you could have had two movies. You could have like spun one to the. I didn't. It's not the worst movie I've seen this year,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as it wasn't good. I didn't think it was as good as it. Well, I didn't think any of them. I didn't think any of them were good. Now that I think about it, but
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could pretty much argue that ever since the first Jurassic Park in like 1993, that every single one of them after that has been absolutely terrible. It's like we almost got into like sort of that like Scream, like Freddy Krueger era of film, where it's like the first one was a pretty decent idea, and then the next thing you know, there's like 12 of them, and then none of them like made any sense like moving forward. But I kind of felt the same way about this film going into it that Rob did. But the only difference is that I actually did see Fallen Kingdom, and I hated this movie. So my expectations for this film were absolutely low because I was like, there's no way they could possibly make a movie that's even worse than Fallen Kingdom. Like Fallen Kingdom is one of the dumbest movies that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm not even like remotely joking about that. Like it was nothing about that film made any sense whatsoever. Now, as far as this one goes, it was a decent film. I would say decent as that the story itself. There wasn't anything that was like, oh my god, this is absolutely terrible. But there was a lot of other problems with the film. There was far too many characters in this movie, and when I mean far too many characters, by the time we get to the ending, there's about 12 people in one helicopter trying to flee to safety, which is way too many people to save. I mean, if you guys don't have the balls to kill some of these people off because you think you may make money with them down the line, it's like I don't know what you guys are doing. There's too many characters. I think Rick talked about this a little bit. Is that there's two movies in one? In my eyes, just way too many plot points and plot points that really don't matter towards the end of the film. It's like they introduce things, but by the time we get to the ending, all of those things are just completely forgotten, and we're basically watching three giant dinosaurs fight each other, just like we did in the last two films before this, because we have to have that obligatory dinosaur fight.
That's right.
And then another thing I didn't like was the villain, and we'll talk about this one a little bit. But yeah, mine's wasn't nearly as positive as a popcorn film. I just felt like okay, you really didn't need this film, or you didn't need half the people who were in this movie. Like maybe if you guys like sharpened it a little bit and made it a little more focused, it could have been a better film. But it was just way too much going on at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the film in detail. I want to give a quick little shout out to our friend Cole Classic Cage. I can never say that right. I'm just gonna start calling you Triple C because that's a lot easier than saying the whole thing. But she's with us tonight. And then, so I said I don't know the difference between South African and Australian. I'll say this: I've watched enough British TV to understand the British accent. Sometimes the Aussie one will catch me up a little bit now there, but there's a little slight distinct difference between that. Lewis the Casual is also here with us tonight, so hey, shout out to Lewis. So let's start with the opening of this film. So like I said, it's immediately after the events of the last film. Dinosaurs are just basically all over the planet, and the idea is that well now humanity has to learn to live with the dinosaurs, right? So this is my first question. These killer dinosaurs are just all over the planet. and we're just like, okay, we're just completely okay with giant dinosaurs. Like, you're not seeing like any kind of like Civil Warish type situations. You're not seeing like people with guns like shooting these dinosaurs, because I mean, it's not like these people, like these dinosaurs aren't like actively like eating people and attacking people. Like, we saw how hostile like the raptors were. Like, there would be a lot more violence going on the street if something like this happened. I don't think people will just like kindly accept that, hey, you have to learn to live with pterodactyls now. So good luck flying to Australia anytime soon. A giant bird might just come and knock your flight out of midair. Like, there would be so many legal issues with that story, but that just gets into the more of the inconsistency with the story up to this point. Because you have to understand, this is the sixth movie up to this point, right? And you would think that after the first time, which was the original Jurassic Park movie, that we would learn that, okay, messing with these dinosaurs isn't a good thing. I mean,
Right.
these things could possibly cause an extinction level event. Yet somehow they just keep going and going and going. We keep ended up in the same situation where it's like, okay, well, I just don't feel bad for any of you people anymore, because you should know better up to this point.
Well, this third movie almost like takes it almost. It says, "Oh, hey, we have to clean up the mess of the second movie because this was such a shitty plot line." So this is the situation. This is the way the world is right now. And I think that's why that first act takes 40, 45 minutes just to get over with, because you have to set up the scenario and the situation, and then show kind of like what the characters are doing, what they're up to. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are hiding out that the clone chick up in the mountains or whatever with the raptors.
All right. Well, you forget a couple of things. First,
go ahead.
Despite the massive failure, they still opened the damn park. All right. Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I mean, after that, I would have thought they wouldn't open the park, but they opened it. Made it nice big SeaWorld Disney resort type deal, complete with the petting zoo. And all I could think of is, well, one of the little Triceratops kind of gores a little girl or boy in the park. They don't care. Okay. Secondly, you forget Claire is a dino rights activist. In Fallen Kingdom, she was out there trying to save the dinosaurs. So of course she's going to keep trying to save them, even though they've tried to kill her repeatedly, but she just doesn't learn. I mean, she's just going to keep saving those cute little creatures out there, the ones that are outside. Was it the Lincoln Memorial? That the little girl is petting. Of course, they're gonna. Because they're cute. What little child doesn't like them cutesy little dinosaurs, even though it's going to devour them? And you have Blue, who's so adorable, and you have the little blue child. So of course they're not going to kill. That's why we live with the dinosaurs, because they could eat us, but they're also so adorable, and kids like them. Come on.
Here's this is real quick, and then here's the other thing. Like, in the opening like scene, they're showing like all these like what's the fucking name for montages of like these people just randomly getting attacked by like dinosaurs. Like, one girl was like getting chased by like 3 like flying dinosaurs that were all attacking her. It's like, are you just telling me that just every world government on the planet is just completely putting up with this? Just like poor girls getting attacked by dinosaurs? Like, no, just deal with it. You're fine. This is life now. Just deal with it.
They fall under the Endangered Species Act. Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe they should be endangered. Maybe like I understand like trying to like keep bees alive, but maybe not like 500-foot dinosaurs. Like, maybe those need to die.
Yeah.
Like, so the whole threat. And first of all, we start off with the clone girl. Like, apparently, obviously, she's gotten a little bit older since the last movie. When she was playing up that whole like angsty teenager bit, like they try to do in all Hollywood movies. It's like, I'm 14. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad. It's like, you're the bitch who doomed humanity in the last fucking movie. I'm not gonna sit here and put up with your fucking angsty fucking Nirvana listening bullshit after everything you pulled in the last fucking film. None of this would be happening right now if it wasn't for that one little girl. I just want to keep that in mind. None of this would be happening right now if it wasn't for her.
She's a plot device. She, as a character, she is a plot device. She literally only exists to cause the other characters to chase after her and go on down that, fucking yellow brick road. So.
Quick little shout out to Spencer, who's also in the chat today. He says dinosaurs. Oh yeah, there's plenty of dinosaurs here.
Yeah.
So the first plot point is that you have these animal poachers out there that are trying to get this little girl and take her to Biosyn. I don't know why the plan was. Let's take her to like Cairo first, even though we were already in the United States, and then from Cairo go back to the United States or somewhere, whatever island that they were near, to I guess do experimentations on her. It seemed like a kind of a unnecessary detour when you already had her in possession. Probably could have saved yourself a trip. But then again, how else were we going to get cool scenes like Chris Pratt riding on a motorcycle outrunning dinosaurs? We'll get to that one in a second.
Right.
And then the second, so while that's going on the other side of the country, we have the thing with the locusts. And there's giant genetic locusts that are just swarming in the hundreds to thousands that are rapidly eating up all the world's crops. So they bring back Laura Dern's character because she's like, well, if we don't do something, we're all going to starve within the next year, and it's going to be global famine because we're out of wheat and things of that nature. So that's how they introduce essentially all the old characters back, because they need that plot device to be like, oh, let's go see what Jeff Goldblum's doing. Oh, he's a spokesperson for the evil company who's telling everyone that we need to transcend human consciousness, which is a very, very, very odd line that sounded like an evil villain delivery. But he's supposed to be like our hero as well, so it's a very odd phrasing for that whole environment. So obviously there's two separate things like going on here. Did you guys feel like that the film was better if they would have focused on one or the other, or did we need to just get rid of like one altogether? Like which of the two plot lines interested you more?
I mean, I think that there's an issue. I think there's an issue with them basically introducing. I'm sorry, I just completely lost what I wanted to say.
No, don't worry, I do that every now and then too. So.
It'll come back to me.
I'll jump in to try to give you time.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I didn't care. I didn't care about having the old. I don't want to say old people. I don't care about having.
You could say that some of them are pretty old. It's not an attack.
I didn't care about having them, and I thought, well, we've had all these dinosaurs running around, but we also have all these giant locusts feeding off the plants, except the biosyn seed. You have to remember it. Except the biosyn seed.
Yeah,
that one was never touched, and no one in the press or the government ever wondered how is it that these giant locusts are swarming the Midwest, but they never touched this particular seed. There's no connection, I guess. So
yeah,
I could have done without that whole plot line because I don't care about the locusts. I mean, the whole big thing about the Jurassic World series is the dinosaurs, not the locusts.
Yeah, that's my question too. It's like, why is there even a plot line about the locusts? It's like we left off on the cliffhanger that dinosaurs is basically taking over the entire planet. Like, shouldn't that be the threat? Like, you already had essentially the plot for the next movie already in the can. They decided to just forget about all that and just be like, nope, giant locusts in the food supply. That's the focus. And then even that's only the focus for maybe the first hour and a half of the film, and then by the time they get to the lab, it's like it really didn't matter too much anymore after that anyway. So
well, it's like Rick said though, it's the two plot lines meeting up. It's so that they can basically meet up at that final location to sort of be like, oh hey, the new class versus the old class, and hey kind of bullshit. But yeah, it's I mean I guess I like the plot of Chris Pratt driving his motorcycle in the streets of Cairo, being chased by raptors with lasers on them.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not. It's probably the only really good scene in the film as far as action wise goes, because outside of that, you have the beginning and then the 2-minute dinosaur brawl towards the end. So it's really the most action that you get in the whole film. But I do want to touch up on this one. Is that we talked about? Let's talk about the Chris Pratt side of things, because obviously after the girl gets kidnapped, they have to go to Cairo in order to save her. I'm not sure if it's Cairo or not. I know it was some African looking. Huh?
Malta.
It was Malta.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, you asked Malta. You're absolutely right. I can't tell any of them apart.
It looked like the Middle East. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Mediterranean, close enough.
Yeah, a little bit close. But so this is another thing that I didn't really care much for the film is that I actually liked the villain that they presented, who was Sonia Santos, who was played by Daichin Leckman, I believe is her name. But she's been in a bunch of like TV stuff that I've watched before. Like she's been in like Dollhouse, like the 100. I think she was recently in a TNT show that I really like. So I've seen her in like many things before. I thought that she was a great villain the way that they set her up. But once they essentially quote unquote like capture her, like about a quarter of the way like through the film, you never see her again throughout any point in the movie, and it's like
Right.
we guys kind of dropped the ball on having like a pretty decent villain because the villain that we did get is basically like a bootleg version of Steve Jobs, who is the
Right.
running of this evil corporation that and I hate the whole like Steve Jobs like Microsoft like Apple tech talk that we have to do where every villain has to get on stage in front of like a giant screen and talk about what they're gonna do for humanity, and then he walks off the stage and then all of a sudden here comes evil plan. Like here's what's really going on behind the scenes. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it, they're Google. It's like that's what Google does. It's like, we see it so many times in so many movies, but the dude's a completely like weak villain. Like he's just there. He doesn't even have like really true villainous like motivations. He's just trying to manage essentially their own fuck up. And then when he gets out of control, he's basically dispatched later on in the film. He's never menacing in any way, shape, or form. So I hate how they kind of drop the ball on him and really drop the ball on her too. Because I thought that the movie would have been a lot better if maybe they focused a little bit on her and her plot line. Like I said, she's gone just as early as they introduced her, which is kind of lame in my opinion. Did you guys feel that way?
Well, it's kind of what you said about like the villain. I'm so sorry. I completely lost what I was going to say. I'm just not
twice in a row.
It'll come back to me. But basically, like he almost reminds me of the other Apple guy, Tim whatever, not Steve Jobs.
Tim Dillon, I think is the name, right? Tim Dillon, isn't that him? I want to say it's Tim Dillon.
It's the guy that succeeded Steve Jobs, but basically it's the don't look up like tech guy who's like supposed to be evil, and it's like
yeah.
It came back to me, by the way. It's the good scientists versus the bad scientists, and we need the good scientists to basically to point out how evil these greedy profit driven people are. So it's a very lazy, very shallow attempt at just doing the good and the bad for the the antagonists and protagonists.
Oh, Tim Cook is the Apple CEO, by the way.
Tim Cook, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that the first Jurassic Park, John Hammond is not. He's not evil. I don't think he's evil. He's just misguided, wildly misguided. I wish they had done that with this villain because it's really easy just to have the evil genius there trying to clone whatever he was doing.
Right.
So I didn't care. I thought he was slightly funny in a lot of ways. Like when he's trying to get mad and punching the air, I was laughing.
That was pretty funny. Yeah. Him overreacting at his failure.
But I liked Santos, the villainess, especially because we need more villains that can strike a pose. Because if you notice, a lot of times she would just stand there in her nice outfit, like, okay, I'm going to send these raptors and put a little laser on them to kill them.
Yeah.
We need those. We need more villainesses.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that was something that they had, for some reason, they brought that back from the last film, Fallen Kingdom. So Rob didn't know about this, but the whole like laser pointer dinosaur thing, that was something they introduced in the last film because towards the end of that one, they have some giant like new bio-created dinosaur that operates based on like a gun. So you point the gun at whatever you want the dinosaur to attack, you pull the trigger, and the dinosaur just attacks it. And I'm like, okay, so you created a gun that tells the dinosaur who to attack, but if you have a gun, wouldn't you just use that? Like, what would be the point of like using like the dinosaur? It's like they're still trying to use like dinosaurs as like weapons of war. It's like we have bombs now. Like you don't need to send like raptors to Afghanistan to attack the Taliban. It's like you can just drop a fucking bomb on them and don't have to send anybody there whatsoever. Like, isn't that why we have drone strikes now? So it's like this whole outdated idea of, oh yeah, we're gonna use these dinosaurs, and with a dinosaur squad in the military, we'll be the most powerful military in the world. It's like, no, like you guys still are on like this 1993 like plot idea that's no longer valuable in 2022. It's like that just makes no sense to me.
It's like a Sharknado thing though. Third or fourth half-baked regurgitated ideas of like cybernetic shark versus, like kind of science fiction movie ideas, where this Jurassic Park is supposed to be the best version of that kind of thing, of like a monster movie, taken to its biggest, most spectacle laden conclusion. And it's a really, I had fun with it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's like, you guys are really at the end of your rope creatively, aren't you?
Yeah, because after 6 movies, this is all they got.
Right.
Well, I mean, you built the things. You might as well get your money's worth.
Yeah, you might as well. But I mean,
I guess.
And then they're not even like, I have to be, we'll talk about this later on, but I was impressed that I actually did see one dinosaur in the film that looked like it was like an animatronic, like practical effect rather than just like big giant CGI, which I pretty much figured what they were going for, like straight throughout though. But yeah, so we missed an opportunity there with that villain. But I would say one thing that I did like about this film is that it completely got rid of Justice Smith and who's the girl, Danielle Pineda from the Cowboy Bebop reboot. Completely got rid of them in this film. They're basically been reduced to cameos because they were two of the worst aspects of the last film. Justice Smith running around screaming at everything that moved for 2.5 hours got on my damn nerves. I wish he had gotten eaten by a dinosaur at some point, but nope, he's still alive.
Yeah.
And then Danielle Pineda, who was basically playing, like I said, the animal dinosaur rights activist, is like, okay, we really don't need you either. So like, bye.
Yeah.
Those are the beginning, right?
Which one?
They were the
yeah, they were the two in the opening scene with Dallas Howard, who were trying to save the little baby. Yeah,
I barely remember them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You don't want to know them any more than you currently do because they weren't good in the film at all. So yeah, so outside of that's happening in another country. You have Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum who are all reconnecting, and that's sort of like your member berries portion of the film. Now, it's funny because there was an article that I wrote for Bounding into Comics maybe about 3 weeks ago before this movie came out, and they were talking about how in the first Jurassic Park movie that there was a 20 years age difference between Laura Dern and Sam Neill when they were portrayed to be in a relationship then. And the thing that I said then is like, well, wow, no one noticed that you were 20 years younger than him because you both kind of looked the same age like during the film. And then here we are 20 years later. Now, keep in mind, Sam Neill, I think it's like 72, 73 years old. He looks great for his age. I mean, you wish you looked as good as Sam Neill does in his early 70s at this point. Laura Dern, on the other hand, not so much. I know she's like maybe like 55 years old. I think I made this comment during movie night that I think I made this comment on the stream yesterday where Laura Dern is only like 4 years older than Jennifer Connelly, and she looks just about as old as Sam Neill does now. So I know Laura Dern is one of your favorite people. So what did you feel about her in this film, Rob?
Laura Dern, like I think the other two actors returning from the original trilogy, she was fine. But they're basically glorified cameo roles. Yes, I personally do not like Laura Dern very much. I think she's an overrated actress. I think she's unattractive. I think in the original one, she's not a very attractive actress. Her work with David Lynch makes me want to rip my hair out. But outside of that, she's fine in this movie. She does her job, but it was just like one big, more runaround, for the old team. So she was fine, serviceable.
What about you, Rick? Do you have a Laura Dern poster on your wall somewhere?
No. I mean, she's got her Oscar. She doesn't care.
Right.
I mean, I didn't even notice the age difference. And here, I didn't notice the age difference either. I didn't care. I didn't care back when I saw it. When I saw the first Jurassic Park, I don't care about it now. I don't understand why it's a big deal now and it wasn't then. I don't understand because I was thinking that there's an age difference between J-Lo and Maluma in "Marry Me," because J-Lo is old enough to be Maluma's mother, and I don't remember anyone making a big deal out of that. Why is this a big deal? Yes, I'll say that Sam Neill looks very good. I would never have guessed he was in the 70s.
Oh, well, why'd you have to go and bring up "Marry Me"? Like, I was so good, like not having to remember that movie. Like, I'll be shocked if there's 5 movies worse than "Marry Me" by the end of this year. Like,
But
I'm
why
not
did she
that.
make? But why did she remake Made in Manhattan? That's my question. Like, why? I don't get it. I just don't.
I mean, the whole plot of that film was that hey, J Lo's like in her early 50s, she's still awesome, isn't that right, guys? Like I just felt like the whole thing was like a vanity project just for her, and it's like,
I,
okay, then why am I here? Like why
I,
am I here watching this movie?
Ben Affleck gets to be Batman, and she gets to do her Marry Me movie. I guess that's
I,
the
I'm sorry I
late
brought
stage
it up,
career
but
move.
I didn't care. And as for Laura Dern, she was fine. She was fine. I think Sam Neill was kind of pointless as his character in the whole thing.
Hmm.
I noticed that they kept kind of pushing him aside, and he. There were times, and I wrote this in my review. There were times when I genuinely thought Dr. Grant had dementia. Like he wasn't quite sure where he was
Yeah.
at. He was kind of my favorite part, and I know I'm going to jump a little ahead. My favorite part is when he recognizes someone. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but he recognizes a character that was also in the first Jurassic Park,
Right.
and he just kind of points and says,
You.
"I remember you."
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
thought I wasn't sure if that was like an accusation or he was just happy he recognized anyone.
I just thought it was a shallow attempt at being like, oh hey, Grant recognizes the guy from the first movie. Because again, I'm not trying to spoil it because I know the actor specifically who you're talking about. But yes, no, he recognizes a character from the first. And it's like, okay, it
Yeah,
was nostalgia, like a swipe in nostalgia for the first movie for fans.
it was yeah. I'm sure it was great, but Lord forgive me, but no, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but
Yeah.
it was
It's something bad. We could pretty much say that. No,
Yeah, he's trying to prevent the spoiler. I think.
no.
Oh,
When I was watching the movie, and he was like, "I remember you."
mhm.
Okay, Lord forgive me, but the first thing I thought was, he. No, I'm not gonna say it. No, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. Before I go through the trouble.
we'll,
We've all said
we'll
worse
stick.
things on Twitter. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah. Today I've said worse things on Twitter. So
there you go.
but let's stay with the characters for a
Yeah,
second because I'm interested to hear that you felt like Sam Neill was pointless because I literally wrote in my review that I felt like Jeff Goldblum was completely pointless. Like when he came up on screen, when he finally showed up for the first time, it's like we've gotten to the point with this franchise where like I don't care that Jeff Goldblum's in this movie. Like I don't have like that giddy moment that everyone else had to be like, oh, it's Jeff Goldblum's back. It's like. I mean, he had a slight cameo in the last one, even though he was doing press tours for that movie like he was actually in it when he was only in it for like the last 2 minutes of the film. So he's back here. Obviously, has a bigger role in the movie, but I felt like he really didn't contribute much to the film like whatsoever. Like he was basically there to be like the spokesperson for the evil corporation. And then like by the time like the end of the movie comes, it's like, yeah, you're fired. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, the whole island's on fire, so I guess the joke's on you then. So
And I
I
mean
just felt like he
that's
was kind of there.
yeah, and that's what I mean by like they are glorified cameos because Jeff Goldblum's there because he's connected with Biosyn so that he can get Grant and Ellie in
Yeah.
when they after because they come to see him after he's given the speech which introduces his character in this movie which was pretty good. I mean it was a good delivery, good performance by Goldblum, but again that's really it. And then he's
Yeah.
sort of like this plot device once they're at Biosyn or in Italian mountains, like they're up in the Italian mountains or something. I think that's where their
Yeah.
headquarters
yeah,
is located.
yeah. Well, I just thought that he was. I know that the persona is kind of like, oh, I'm not quite here, but when he's trying to help the people escape with the codes, even for Jeff Goldblum, he didn't seem to be taking any of this serious. Like, oh, I'm just gonna punch these buttons, and oh, okay, that's not it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Meanwhile, there's this girl. I mean, she's still a teen, but
Yeah,
he could get eaten. His friends could be eaten, but let me see this one. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, okay, like it didn't care. He didn't care that these people were going to get eaten so long.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no. Eventually, I'll get it right. Okay. If you get devoured, okay, well, too bad.
Hmm. He's making little funny quips while he's like putting in the code. It's like, yeah, everyone that you've known for like the last 30 years is about to get eaten right in front of you. Like, you think there'd be like a little bit of hesitancy. But I,
Urgency.
I, I was glad that there wasn't like a really like dumb like thing where he was putting in the passcode and it'd be like, oh, what was such and such's birthday? It's like, oh, it just happened to be the one code that we didn't know. It's like, I'm glad they didn't do anything like super corny like that. But yeah, I just kind of feel like that he was there, and I felt like a lot of these characters were there, which is probably why I would prefer maybe some of them get eaten or
Right.
get killed, so they would add a little more emotional weight to like the movie. Because I mean, yeah, if Malcolm gets ripped apart by a dinosaur, it's like, oh, okay, so there actually are stakes to this whole film now. But
But
no,
see,
we didn't
that's
get
what
that.
I think that's why I like the chases so much, is because I got to see these people who I don't like very much get chased by
Hmm.
these bloodthirsty dinosaurs. Like seeing Bryce Dallas Howard just run for her life, almost get
Yeah.
eaten is it was kind of thrilling. I think that's honestly what it was about. So
She's improved. She's not wearing high heels anymore. Come on.
No, yeah, that white dress and the high heels from the first film. That was the first Jurassic World movie, which it wasn't great to say the least. But I mean, hey, at least and that's the kind of thing that was weird to me too. Is like, didn't we already establish that she's fast enough to outrun a T Rex on high heels? And why is she running from like every other dinosaur in this film? That doesn't make any sense to me. But who cares about continuity, right?
and that's what I want to say too, is that it's true. I didn't see the second movie, but her annoying activism is tamped down somewhat in this movie. We
Yeah,
see it at first. We see it with her trying to rescue I think it's a baby
Triceratops.
Stegosaurus or
yeah.
Triceratops. Yeah, but for the most part, she's busy running the rest of the movie. I mean, there's a little part with her and Chris Pratt, in the mountains with the kid. But after that, she's pretty much kind of on the run, trying to survive. So
Yeah.
I figured that's a bonus, even if the movie itself is still a mess.
I will say that's one of the things about this film. That's probably the funniest thing about the movie. It's like the opening like 3 4 minutes where they try to pretend like MSNBC and now this is doing like real investigative journalism.
Right.
It's like now this is like doing like BBC 4 level journalism about how the dinosaurs got here. It's like, look, we know this is an NBC property and you guys own these networks, but
Right.
stop it. Like, we know the type of stuff you guys put on there. You guys don't cover anything like this in real life. Like,
Right.
why are you even trying to pretend? Like, it would have made more sense if it was like CNBC than MSNBC, but it's like, come on now.
Yep.
So another character I wanted to talk about, one that had a lot of talk leading up to this movie, was the character of Kayla Watts, played by DeWanda Wise. So she's in the movie. I guess she's like a trafficker. I guess you could say she's the person you hire when you need to get stuff in and out the country, whether it's people or artifacts, whatever the case is. So she's introduced in the film as the person who helps the evil corporation smuggle the little clone girl into Malta, whatever the country is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, she finds out it's like, oh no, they kidnapped the girl. So I think I'm going to help Bryce Howard save the little girl who I handed off to the evil corporation. And she pretty much becomes part of the team just because of that. Because I guess she felt bad that she smuggled the little girl in, but it's like, you're a person who knows you're dealing with like bad people like all the time. So why did this one little girl just make you turn face essentially and decide you want to be a good guy now when you were taking money from bad people all the way up to this point? So that part of the story didn't make any sense to me. And then probably the most eye rolling thing, which was what a lot of people were talking about leading into this film, is that her character is going to be introduced to the LGBTQ community, and they do it in the most lazy way possible.
Oh, the
So
redhead comment. The redhead
yeah,
comment. Oh my
that
god.
was the one that was
Uh,
the one little comment that was supposed to establish her as being gay or bisexual or whatever.
yeah.
So she and Chris Pratt are in the elevator together. They just outran a giant dinosaur who almost killed him. If you watch the trailer we just played, it was the
Yeah.
scene right after that. And she basically just makes the comment. It's like, yeah, I see you're really risking your life to go after Bryce Howard. It's like yeah, it's like I get it. I'm in the redheads too, and that's supposed to be like the one little throwaway line to be like, yeah, we got one in the movie. It's like it's so blatantly obvious that they needed to throw that line in there because it's like, well, we have diversity and inclusion quotas in NBC Universal, so we have to have somebody here be gay, even though it has nothing to do with the plot of giant dinosaurs and locusts destroying the entire planet. But we need that representation, and that was the lazy line that they did to do it. So, what did you guys think of her character as a whole?
Well, I was gonna say, like, I actually didn't mind her character because she didn't stand out in an annoying way to me. Now, when you say that thing, it's sort of like, okay, great, that's great. Now I have a reason to be annoyed. But in all reality, she's fine. She's a fine character. She gives Chris Pratt some attitude and some pushback. On their way up there. She gives him shit for like asking questions, basically, which is like, no, ask questions every time. I don't care what the fucking pilot's saying. But no, it's it's just smart to kind of whatever situation you're going into to know what it is. But yeah, she was fine. But I posted this article today where it was like Yahoo was saying that she was the star of Jurassic World Dominion, and it's like she's like the 9th or 10th person listed on the cast. Like, in no way is she a star, but it's like she gave a decent enough performance. She didn't stand out in a negative way, and I figure like in a movie like this, that's positive usually.
Mm-hmm. She was. Go ahead.
I'm with Rob on this one. She was fine, and for that redhead thing, like I don't know. I could have been. She was just taunting Chris Pratt, and doesn't Chris Pratt have kind of like a sandy colored hair? I don't know. I didn't care. I honestly don't care. It's irrelevant to me what she does. But she was fine. I don't think she's like the star. I don't think she's like the greatest character. She was fine. I don't believe that she she had a change of heart, because I'm sure she smuggled in other things. I mean, but I don't. It didn't matter to me. She was fine. She was fine.
Going back to the Chris Pratt real quick, him and Bryce Howard. Obviously, this is their third movie, like in the trilogy, and the last two films are pretty much like focused centrally on them, and it is to an extent here, but it does feel like that their whole like arc kind of took like a backseat up until like maybe like the very end, because like for the mid part of the films, which is the second act, we focus more on the legacy characters than we do them. So, do you think that their presence was better felt in this movie, or do we think we dropped the ball on both of them in this film?
Well, they were the more active physical participants, the ones being chased a lot of the time, or at least the longer action set pieces that required more of them on screen. So that's kind of their focus in terms of performance in this movie. And personally, I kind of liked that because it didn't bog it down with their their personal relationship crap. But you still got enough of that where Chris Pratt, he sacrifices himself to save Bryce Dallas Howard, and there are these moments that sort of like bring back the memory that I'm sure in the second movie and from the first movie. So I thought actually it worked for the movie better that they did it that way.
Well, all I'm thinking is, they're parents, so they don't have time for a lot of romance.
Adopted parents.
Yeah, they're still not going to, especially when you've got to, keep this cloned child hidden away where she doesn't communicate with anyone, and she just spends all her days just locked away in that little cabin up there, turning into the clone British Unabomber. I mean,
Ted Kaczynski.
She looked at with a little hoodie and everything.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. I mean, you've always got to have some kind of romance, I guess, and especially when you look like Chris Pratt and you look like Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't think she's ugly. So you've got to have a little.
I think I made the comment in my review that Bryce Howard is basically a less insufferable Jessica Chastain. Like Jessica Chastain, if like she actually had like a father in her life.
Yeah, it's very close. Yeah. It's another one I hate. I hate Jessica Chastain so much. She gets
shouldn't have won the Oscar.
So much praise.
You shouldn't have won the terrible performance.
Oh, the
Tammy Faye? Tammy something. Yeah,
Tammy Faye performance was like a bad drag SNL performance, where it's like you can tell the people hate the person that they're imitating.
Yeah,
and it's like cinema was supposed to be about empathy, like actually trying to get to like a human thing. And that movie was so painfully ugly that it was just like, okay.
Yeah. No, they praised that movie because it attacked evangelical Christians. That's the whole reason why they put that movie on a pedestal. And she won an Oscar for that one. It's like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
But but fortunately she's not in this film, so that's one of them. So one last thing that I wanted to talk about, the doctor character, his name slips me. BJ Wong, who played Dr. Henry Hu. So he's Yeah, so he's somehow just stayed around since like the first film because he was responsible for like the original Jurassic World Park. Like he was basically the stooge there. And
Hmm.
then over the course of like the last two movies, like he's still around. So when he came back like midway through this film, and it's like, oh, he's working with like the evil tech company. And it's like, why do you keep having this guy like around? Like, shouldn't he have bitten the dust like at least in the first movie? Like by now, like how's Vincent D'Onofrio die and this guy's like still alive? It's like, but he's still around and he's still essential to the plot because apparently he knows that they screwed up with the locust. He needs to like save the world and whatnot, but he needs the little girl's I guess blood or DNA to like figure out how her clone mother did it like years ago or whatnot. But you figured that would take like months, maybe years, decades to like figure something like that out. And no, he figures it out pretty quickly, just out of nowhere. So what do you guys think about his character?
Well,
I,
after all this, after he helps create the dinosaurs and unleashes all this mayhem and chaos, now he feels guilty about all this. Now, all these almost what 30 years later, now he feels slightly bad about
Yeah.
having done all this, and he's just wandering around. Like I don't know. He's there, I guess, to try to have some kind of great continuity from the very first Jurassic Park all the way through these Jurassic World movies. But I guess he works cheap because there all these companies were willing to hire him again and again, despite failing. He what is that expression? He fails up.
Failing upward, yep.
He
yeah.
fails up, just like Uncle Joe. He keeps failing up to
Yeah.
the presidency. So there you go.
And it's even weird, like towards the end, they try to like prop him up as like the good guy hero. It's like you're literally the guy who caused all this in the first place. You ran the park, and then the park failed, and everything got loose. So you're the guy who started everything. But because he comes in at the last second and solves one problem, because keep in mind the dinosaurs are still around. Like they don't solve that problem, but I guess they solved the locust. So I guess he's the hero now, and he's not a guy who doesn't belong in jail for like war crimes or something like that.
No, the dinosaur problem's been solved. They're all going to stay in that sanctuary up in the mountains of Italy, the United Nations.
Yeah.
So, all right, they're going
Because
to
that
stay.
that hasn't failed like four times in the course of this franchise, right?
Right.
No,
No, you gotta wonder.
this time they'll get it right.
You gotta wonder if BD Wong is like a diversity hire for Universal too, because it's just like,
Yeah,
he's a guy. I mean, how many of the Jurassic Park movies has he been in? Has he been in all of them, or like just 4 of the 6? Because he's a guy that was. I mean, he was on Law and Order.
right?
He's what?
4, I guess, but he was on Law and Order SVU. He was on Oz. Like that guy has been working. The actor has been working for like 30 years straight. And so I'm like, I can't imagine he needs it, but who knows, dude?
Well, actually, apart from the Jurassic franchise, I think the only movie I remember him in is 7 Years in Tibet, and I think he sold out the Dalai Lama.
Yeah. So Wong's been in every Jurassic movie except for 2 and 3, but yeah, he's been in 4 out of the 6 to this point.
Yeah.
So he's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
So obviously the big draw of this movie is going to be the dinosaurs, and we get a lot of dinosaurs in the film. I guess one of the benefits of like massive like CEI that they didn't have back in like '93, that now they can just like kind of scale these giant like massive beings. So did you guys were impressed at all by like the kind of like the special effects regarding like the dinosaurs at all, or you think they were missing something? I see Rick shaking his head, so let's start with Rick. What did you think about how the dinosaurs look?
I think that a couple of them look like the animatronic figures in a Disney ride. That's my view. When they're in the cave, a couple of them look like they just were popping out, and I thought, wow, this could be a great Universal theme. I'm sure they do have a Jurassic Park Universal theme, but that's what it or whatever studio it is. That's what it looked like to me when they were in the caves. And there was one point when Grant and the Sadler were getting choppered into the biosyn. They were like, "You have this type of dinosaur, you have that type of dinosaur," and I thought, you've seen dinosaurs for 30 years. Why are you amazed that there are still some dinosaurs here? I mean,
that's the first movie. They're like, you have a Stegosaurus. You have thing. So
they're doing the same thing here. That's why I think Grant is suffering from dementia, because he can't remember that he saw them 30 years ago.
He can't remember that he's done this already.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's more on just the writer's continuity error, saying this character himself. Because I mean, how many Raiders have we had in the course of this franchise? Like obviously we've proven like things like Marvel and Star Wars that people jump on those type of projects and they never watch anything that comes before. They just create their own stuff, and then when something
Yeah.
doesn't make sense versus the work that's already existed, they'll just write an article saying that you're racist or sexist for pointing it out. So so then like another thing is that obviously they keep like introducing like new dinosaurs. Like one was like a giant saurus. So it's like, okay, so how is this one like any different from like the T Rex or like the one after that? Because now we have like four different variations of like the giant T Rex. Like the old T Rex from the first film, it's like that's like almost like a PS1, right? It's like that was
Right.
impressive for its day, but the gaming has like evolved so far now that it's not even impressive anymore. Because now we got like the giant one with like the massive claws that can impale other dinosaurs. You have just the one that's like all red and like even bigger. Then there was a one that even killed the T Rex in like the third film. They brought that one back. So by the
Right.
time you get to the end, it feels like every single movie, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the plot is, we always have to have that obligatory dinosaur T Rex fight towards the end, where it's just 2 minutes of giant dinosaurs eating each other's necks until one of them snaps, and then the film ends. And then, of course, we have to get that classic roar in because what's the point of having that T Rex roar? Gotta get the royalties in for that shit. So,
Hmm.
what did you guys think about the movie? I mean, the dinosaur fights like in this film was it impressive? Did it add on to the film, or do you think it was kind of lackluster?
I mean, again, I very low bar. I had a good time in the theater watching it play out. I mean,
Yeah,
I I mean, I can't defend it because it's not a good movie. It's just not. But it's like it it was a fun, it was a fun, morning at the theater, just kind of watching it play out. But yeah, it's
Wrong.
just dumb, kind of like big dinosaurs fighting each other.
I would love someone on YouTube to take the footage from all these dinosaur fights and just put the Rite of Spring from Fantasia, so they could match it. So you could have that. You could have that. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. When I was watching that climactic battle with the three dinosaurs, all I kept hearing was Rite of Spring playing in my mind. And I was like, oh, this is where they could slow down the music. That's all
yeah.
I about.
I mean, some parts of the film, like where they were getting attacked in midair on the plane, you could also play like Flight of the Valkyrie as well. So I
Right.
think that that fits with the tension of the scene. Another thing about the movie is that this is a long movie. This is about 146 minutes, which is nearly 2.5 hours. So
Yeah.
if you're going to watch this at the theater, you got to remind yourself that there's 20 minutes of preview before the movie. So you're going to be sitting there for about a good 3 hours, like in this film. So time your bathroom breaks. Do you think that the runtime was just way too long, especially with all the characters and all the plot points? They could have cut a lot of things out. I felt like they could have cut out maybe about a whole 30 minutes out of this movie. It probably would have flowed a lot better. And then, like I said, by the time you get to the movie's end, you got like 13 people in like one helicopter trying to escape. It's like,
It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah, you could cut out some of the fan service. There's one bit, and I don't know if this is a spoiler, but and maybe you guys can correct me because you guys maybe remember it better. The the Tim Cook guy,
Right.
he has this very beat up old shaving cream can that he
Hmm.
takes with him.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, I'm watching that and I'm thinking, is that supposed to be from like
First movie.
30 years ago?
Right.
But wasn't that buried in the mud, in the rain after the guy who stole it was killed?
Yeah.
And
Newman from Seinfeld. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Wayne
and
Knight.
wouldn't whatever was in there have already disintegrated long before he found it? Why does he have it? Does he like? I was like, this is clearly done to kind of, oh wow, we tie that in. That's how he got that technology. That thing would have been useless and nobody would have found it. It was buried in the mud. I'm sorry, I get persnickety with little points like that.
Yeah.
That's a little fan service that was for me pointless. Okay, so
Yeah. I mean,
I wasn't dreaming that.
yeah, I can't even argue any of that. It's like to me, it's like I know that you need the fan service, you need the member bears. Then you also have to conclude what you built two movies up to this point and try to bring them all together for like one film. But to me, it was just far too overbloated. And then at the end of the day, when you look at just the overall course of just the storyline, like nothing much like really happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
in this movie, from where we started to like where we ended, like there wasn't like any like earth shattering events. It's like essentially almost ended the same way as the last movie. It's like the dinosaurs are still here. We still have to live with them, and a few people died along the way, and
Yeah.
then then we're off to the next film. So this was the sixth Jurassic World movie. They say that there's no more after this, but give it about another 10, 20 years, and they'll bring Chris Pratt back when he's 60 years old, and they'll have a new series because that's all they have. I mean, they're not gonna let this cash cow go like anytime soon, especially since it's still making money like to this day. So
Hey, you got prequels. You got the potential prequels here.
Oh, please stop.
please stop giving them ideas.
Stop. No.
So I want to go ahead before I get you guys overall rating of the movie. I want you guys final thoughts or anything that you wanted to bring up that we didn't talk about this film that you guys want to mention. So I'll go ahead and start with Rick. Was there anything else about this movie that you wanted to say?
Well, no. Well, there was one quick thing. When they're in the cave, does the clone or not clone who was by immaculate conception, as I understood it, did she throw a skull at the dinosaur? Was that like an actual human skull that she? It looked like a skull to me, so I'm thinking there were already people that
I
were
think it was a rock. I'm not
okay.
100% certain. I want to say that it was a rock.
I think it
Okay,
was a
good.
rock. Yeah.
It might have been because maybe I was just drifting in and out of consciousness at that point. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it was it was the I think this is the worst of the three. That's my
Really?
yeah.
Okay. Rob, any anything you want to bring up finally before you?
No, and it's I'll probably have to go back and watch them now, the Jurassic World movies, just to see how bad this third one was.
Yeah.
I mean, I look the other movie that I saw or I've seen a couple other movies in theaters. One is Ambulance. I'm literally blanking on the other, but Ambulance is literally the Batman. That's how forgettable the Batman was for me. But Ambulance is the best movie I've seen this year. And so it's a Michael Bay. I can't believe I'm saying that, but a Michael Bay movie is the best thing I've seen this year. I had a good time in the theater with Jurassic World Dominion, but I didn't have any expectations. The characters didn't get in the way. But yeah, it's just probably that I'm a little starved for seeing some kind of entertainment that keeps my attention on the big screen too.
Yeah. I mean, so overall, as far as this movie goes, I don't know how you guys rate it on your own personal score system, but for me, this is pretty much like a 2 out of 5 film. I would say that, in all honesty, I would just wait until it comes out on Peacock in a few months. I don't really think that it's worth sitting in a movie theater for 3 hours to go see because you're not going to really miss anything that you haven't already seen before. It's like it's giant dinosaurs. Chris Pratt and Bryce Howard is doing all the physical lifting from the cast that's not 70 years old and can't run around like like the other ones. Even though they were doing some decent running, I mean, you do get one scene with Jeff Goldblum going 1-on-1 with a giant T-Rex like monster, which I thought was pretty cool, but it also pretty dumb at the same time too, with the way that it ended. But so it's not nearly as bad as Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom for me, I see after seeing all three of them, Fallen Kingdom is easily the worst out of the three. This one's pretty much on par with the first one, and the first one wasn't really that great either. So, like I said, for me, it's just an okay type of film. It's like you're not gonna love it, you're not gonna hate it. It's just gonna be there, and then you probably won't go back and watch it again. So, 2 out of 5 for me. Rob, what do you think?
I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think it's it's basically like an average movie in terms of quality, which maybe is giving it a little too much credit, but I stand by that 3 out of 5.
Well, I grade by alphabet, so I gave it a D plus, and I have to say that I did enjoy Fallen Kingdom because I laughed so hard. I thought it was hilarious. So I can't trash a movie that I found funny, but no. This
See, you like that movie because you just found it absolutely like stupid. Like if that movie was like dumb on purpose, like if they just like went all in on just being an absolutely dumb movie, maybe I could have had fun with it. But they were
Yeah.
still trying to be like serious too, especially that ending. I can't like I literally like when we were sitting in the theater like going like this. Like what the fuck is going on? Like this is how you're gonna end the film. It's like nah, I
Well,
can't co-sign.
I can't believe you didn't. I can't believe you didn't cry when they had to leave that poor brontosaurus out there.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
I can't believe you didn't
Yeah.
cry.
I mean, if they literally had just left those dinosaurs to die, there wouldn't have been a sixth movie. So, I mean, there's your whole justification of how we even got to this point
Yep.
because they're just dumb. But yeah, that's the last talk on Jurassic Park Dominion. It's in theaters now. If you want to go watch it, I mean, with inflation, you're probably going to spend $20 a ticket. So, like I said, just wait till it's on Peacock or watch it on one of those questionable pirate streams that we fully endorse here at Society Reviews, unlike Badly in the Comics, because I don't want to hear Spencer say that Badly in the Comics endorses piracy because they don't, but we do here at Society Reviews. This is my show, so go ahead and talk about that. So that's Jurassic World Dominion. Pretty good conversation about that movie. We talked on a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into our second film of the night, which is Hustle, a film on Netflix starring Adam Sandler about the ins and outs of the NBA. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this short clip right here. It is Netflix, so let's hope that Netflix doesn't decide to pop this. But just in case you do, we'll be back in a couple of minutes, and if not, stay on Twitch just in case. But let's take a short look at the Adam Sandler movie Hustle on Netflix.
So let me ask you again. Do you love this game?
Look at me!
Oh, my bad. I thought that was actually going to be a longer clip, but I guess not.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually thought it was long, but then apparently they just shoehorned a bunch of ads there in the last 30 seconds. So, I mean, it's YouTube, so it probably would have got smacked if we did it anyway. So let me go ahead and just kind of introduce you guys to this movie. Adam Sandler, who's kind of been on a roll, at least his last couple of movies, because now everyone knows that the movies that he did in, let's say, the late 2000s, early 2010s weren't exactly the greatest. You got stuff like, Jack and Jill, That's My Boy, Grown Ups 2, a lot of films that a lot of people don't really like for obvious reasons. But the last few films that he's done has actually been really good. He had Uncut Gems come out in 2019, a really good film. A lot of people think that he got robbed of award recognition of that film. I tend to agree that he did. He last Netflix movie that he did was Hubie Halloween, which wasn't that bad considering and the level of Adam Sandler comedies that we're used to. And they actually dedicated that one to Cameron Bryce, who passed away before that movie was set to release. So there was a little bit of heart and effort put into that movie. So it was a better effort for Adam Sandler. And now he's back here with another, I wouldn't call it Oscar bait movie. Maybe it's a little too early to say that, but it's definitely one of his more serious roles that he's done over the last few years in a film called Hustle, which is about one of the things that Adam Sandler is very passionate about, the game of basketball. So as you know, Adam Sandler is a very big NBA fan. He's been an NBA fan for years. So when this project got presented to him, he had a chance to work with both past and current NBA superstars in this movie. So this is a film that he produced, that apparently LeBron James helped produce as well. And you got a lot of current and past NBA players in this film. So outside of Adam Sandler and Queen Latifah, who plays Adam Sandler's wife in the film, you have a lot of, I wouldn't call them non-actors, but you have a lot of athletes in the movie. Some of them are playing themselves. Others are basically playing loosely based versions of themselves, where the backstory is the same, but obviously the name has changed. So, what this film is about is that he plays a sports scout, international sports scout for the Philadelphia 76ers. His name is Stanley Sugarman. And his day is basically he goes to all these different countries like Spain, Brazil, Russia, wherever the 76ers send him. He goes to scout players who play in European leagues and in South American leagues to see if they're good enough to play in the NBA. So he has his own little list. He checks them out. He sees how they play defense, how they rebound, how they shoot, and are they compatible to the NBA. If they're good, he'll circle the name on the list, bring it back to the United States for the Sixers to look at them. If not, he'll scratch him out. So he gets into a fight with the owner's son, played by Ben Foster, who doesn't like him whatsoever. But he gets into a fight with him, and then obviously the Sixers owner tells him that, hey, the reason why I hired you because you don't back down, you don't take shit from anyone. So I'm going to make you the new assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. Well, that same night, the owner dies, and now the team is left in the hands of Ben Foster, the guy who he does not like. And almost immediately, he makes him scout once again, telling them that he needs to find the next big thing because frankly, he screwed up and drafted the guy who Sandler told him not to draft. So Sandler's back on the road. He's back doing what he doesn't want to do. He's scouting teams again. He goes to Spain, and he doesn't like the potential that he has in Spain. But he ends up stumbling on a pickup game. He finds a new player who's off of everybody's radar, a local street baller named Bo Cruz, and so he finds Bo Cruz. He figures out, hey, the guy actually can play basketball. He has a lot of intangibles that he likes. Maybe the Sixers can take a look at him. So he takes Bo Cruz from Spain and brings him all the way to Philadelphia. Well, the owner doesn't like him. He doesn't want to sign him. So Adam Sandler is adamant that this guy is going to be the next top 5 player in the NBA, and they should sign him. So he does everything that he possibly can to get this guy into the NFL Combine so that all the scouts and all the teams can look at him in hopes that he can get drafted into the league for the next year. Now, obviously, things go wrong. He ends up butting heads with the owner once again. That completely screws him over down the line. So essentially, Adam is going out of his own pocket to make sure that this guy has all the tools that he needs to be NBA ready so that he can play for a team in the coming future. And that's pretty much the gist of the film. So I want to give you guys a little bit of pre-thoughts about the movie. What did you guys think of going into it? I think we had a little bit of difference on this one as well, Rob. So I'll start off with you, and then I'll go to Rick.
Yeah, I actually maybe I just had my expectations were a little bit higher for something like this because Adam Sandler has had a really good track record as of late, and I mean I like movies about professional sports. I like I like movies about the NBA. I like stuff that gives you a behind the scenes look, that kind of docudrama feel. But this movie didn't really win me over. It was okay. Like it was a good like humanistic relationship movie where Adam Sandler is this very passionate, dedicated coach who has this great relationship with the owner of the Sixers. He dies, and of course he butts heads with his son, who's now the current owner. And I like that probably the best. I like that kind of contentious sort of working relationship because a lot of the time, like it's weird that I'm relating it to being like a middle manager or like a supervisor, where it's like you're basically you have just enough power where you can influence things, but if you screw up, you could be out of a job. And so I think that dynamic has a lot of play here. But the idea that he's going to find a street baller in Spain who's going to be a top 5 NBA player just seems a little incredulous, seems to like strain credulity, if I can pronounce that right, a little bit. So some of the stuff seemed contrived, and like Philadelphia is supposed to be this kind of almost like a character. It's supposed to have the atmosphere of the town, and yet it's like Federal Donuts and Pat King of Steaks, which is like the most touristy places you could go in terms of spots in Philadelphia. So things like that kind of rub me the wrong way. I'm from Pennsylvania. I've been to Philadelphia many, many times. I didn't see any gun crime. So that I'm just joking, but for real, it's like, there were things about it that just reminded me it's a Netflix movie, and it's not, their focus isn't on necessarily the craft of filmmaking. It's more of making a product that appeals to a lot of different people. It's interesting. It keeps your attention. But yeah, it seemed lacking overall. Like it didn't come together as a cohesive whole. But yeah, I still thought it was okay though. I was mostly entertained by it. Adam Sandler is the best part about it. He's very charismatic. So I did definitely get that out of it.
Rick, what did you think?
Well, I enjoyed it, and I'm someone who does not follow basketball. I don't really know anything about basketball. I thought that this is kind of a more insider look, and more for someone who knows basketball more than I do. but I didn't feel completely left out. I understand the basic gist of the story. Um, this 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 scout just finds this random raw talent, and despite the firm opposition of someone who just doesn't like him because he doesn't like him, still brings him here, makes a lot of sacrifices. They have kind of not shared stories, but struggles with their anger. Lord forgive me, but when after I finished it, I did nickname it My Fair Luca because it made me think of My Fair Lady. It
Right.
just
Yeah.
takes like he's a
No,
Sugar
very
Man is
good.
like Professor Higgins
Right.
taking Bo,
Eliza Doolittle.
yeah, yeah, and just transforming him into this NBA superstar.
Right.
But I never felt out of place. But I think that people who follow basketball and like basketball will like this maybe a little more than I did. I mean, I liked it. I thought Adam Sandler really been on a roll with his roles. He's shown that he's kind of gone away from those man child roles that
Yeah.
bread
Yeah.
and butter for many years, and movies that I do like. So I was impressed. I wasn't completely lost, though. Um, a lot of the cameos and the players, they kind of just skipped me. The only people I recognized there were Dr. J and Luca. Although I had to call my friend the first time I saw him when I went to a Dallas Mavericks game this year.
Yeah.
I had to call my friend and say, oh, "How do you pronounce this guy's last name?"
Doncic.
Doncic. It was like I see everyone wearing your shirts and
Yeah.
jerseys, but I don't know. And you're talking to someone who, first off, thought that it was pronounced Nowitzki, and who thought he was Polish.
Yeah.
So, like, it took me years to figure those things out. I recognized Allen Iverson, but everyone else, pretty much, I didn't know who they were, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
surprised that they were competent. They were competent in their acting. I'm not saying that they were great, but this wasn't like a jokey type situation where like, oh look, we get to be in a movie. All these basketball stars get to be in a movie. They played it pretty seriously. You know, they weren't the greatest, but Adam Sandler, yeah, he impressed me. He's impressed me. So I liked it. I liked it, but it's probably more geared toward fans of basketball than toward people like me who don't really follow basketball at all.
Yeah. So I will say this. Obviously, I was a big fan. I grew up with the NBA. I love 80s NBA. I love 90s NBA. I'm not a fan of what the league has turned into now, so I'm not really a big fan of the NBA. Like I know one of the finals games is going on right now. I don't care for Golden State or Boston. They're particularly two of my least favorite teams. So I'm just kind of rooting for like a stadium collapse at this point. If you ask my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But obviously, I knew like some of the players like on here, like the main guy, the guy who plays Bo Cruz. I think his name is like Juan Hancho Hernan Gomez, who's actually from Spain. Like I said, there's a lot of foreign European born players in this movie. So good luck pronouncing any of their names correctly, unless you're actually a fan of basketball and has heard it enough times. But so like, a lot of the guys like in the film are basically playing a bit of exaggerated versions of themselves because obviously Hernan Gomez is actually an NBA player. He currently plays for the Utah Jazz. He is from Spain, and his story is kind of mirrored a little bit in this film because he was a youth player in Spain who got on the Real Madrid squad a few years ago. And then obviously he got scouted and he got picked up to the NBA. He played for the Denver Nuggets for a number of years. I think he's bounced around for a few teams since. And there's a few other guys like in this film, like the guy who played the villain, which we'll talk about a little bit earlier. The guy who played Kermit Wiltz. That guy's Anthony Edwards. He plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I like what they did in the sense that they used real basketball players to kind of like play the roles, and didn't just hire like a tall actor to like be like an NBA player. They should try to give it a little bit somewhat authenticity to it, which I liked. There's a lot more about this film that I liked that I didn't like. There's obviously it's a film that if you're not more of I guess a newer NBA fan or you don't really follow the league that much, some of the things in this film could go over your head. So I definitely will agree with that point of it. But there was also a lot of things as far as like the story wise that I really liked. A lot of the cinematography that was, I feel like, was really authentic for what they were trying to portray, and they really did kind of nail sort of the ins and outs of what it's like to work in the front office of an NBA team. It's not like being a player where you're just out partying with Instagram girls in South Florida for hours on end. It's like this is what they have to actually go to all of these different countries and sit and watch these games from teams that no one's ever heard of, to watch 2 hours of basketball to see that if this guy that averages 15 points and 15 rebounds in Spain can play for the Boston Celtics. Does he have what it takes? Can he match the physicality? Does he have off field issues and things of that nature? So there were things that I actually did like. So I guess we should go ahead and just kind of start with what the film is kind of based on, the relationship between Adam Sandler and Bo Cruz, as they call him in the film. They established early on that he lives in Spain, kind of poor with his mother and his young daughter. Doesn't have no father in his life. His girl's mother is no longer in the picture. So what they kind of do is that they kind of, in the course of trying to get him scouted for the NBA, they kind of build a father-son relationship between Sandler and Cruz, because he's really the only guy, literally the only guy in the country that believes that this guy can be a top player in the league, but everybody else is trying to find excuses not to sign him. He's not good enough. He has anger issues. He has a record, things of that nature. He's basically trying to convince people as a 30-year vet of the NBA that, no, this guy has what it takes. Trust me, you're going to want to sign this guy. So what did you kind of think about that dynamic of the film? I'll start with you, Rob.
I mean, I think that it was a compelling component, of kind of showing like what goes on with all of his training, the montages. But I don't know that it was very specific. You know what I mean? Because it shows his kind of life in Spain. But a lot of those elements are also very transparent. Like you don't spend a whole lot of time, because you have to get to the court. You have to show him working hard, how he plays against his competition, all of that. So I mean, it's needed. You need to have that backstory for that character. I don't know. It just came up a little short for me, unfortunately.
All right, Rick, what did you think about the?
Well, I thought that was necessary, because you have someone who is fatherless. He's a father, but he's never had his father, and then you have this older man who's, like you said, the only person who really believes in him, and that's where you start forming the bond, and he starts trusting him, and it builds from there. And also have to remember that Stanley's daughter is not that interested in spending any time with him, so he's looking for someone to share his interest, because the daughter never, she likes film, she's not into sports at all, so he needs someone whom he can communicate, and he found this guy just almost coincidentally, just out of nowhere, and that's what he needed. I think they needed something from each other, and then I think you could say that Stanley saw himself in Bo, because both of them had, well, I don't want to say anger issues, but they both have caused pain and unhappiness early in their lives. Only Bo is still at an age where he can kind of go on the professional route, and Stanley can't, because of his actions early, which we'll find later.
Right.
So they find something in each other. You need that bond, so you can create that emotional connection with these characters.
Right, definitely. And to talk about Sandler's family in the movie, obviously his wife is played by Queen Latifah, who I guess in some aspects is kind of underutilized, because obviously they need to establish that his character has like a family like outside of work, so there's like a little bit of that dynamic to it. But they don't really spend much time with them, and they don't really have a big impact out of the story outside of like there's a scene in, like, as you say, like the earlier part of the movie where he tells him that, hey, I quit my job, and then, because I want to like help this kid, and then they have like a big tiff and like a big fight. But I felt like, they kind of dropped the ball as far as that relationship goes, and then the girl who plays Adam Sandler's daughter, she's there to kind of like play up that like millennial, hey, social media is like the big thing type angle to the film. But as far as her relationship like with her father, it kind of felt like that in general. She just wanted like nothing really like to do with him unless it was something that could benefit like her too. Did you kind of feel that same way watching the film?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to. It's really great that Rick said that the connection between Adam Sandler and Bo, his character and Bo Cruz, because he doesn't really have that relationship with his daughter. His daughter apparently is going to go to film school, and I think by the end of the movie, she is going there. But it's just about, he doesn't have anybody. I mean, he has his wife, and she's very supportive, but he doesn't have anybody sort of directly that he can share that passionate obsession with. And that's part of that big kind of monologue that he talks to Bo about. It's like, do you love this game? Are you as obsessed with this game as I am? And that really allows it does. It allows the relationship to grow. I didn't necessarily feel that connection. I mean, it could be I'm just thick-headed and it just didn't get through to me. But it's really great that Rick made that connection, because it's like that actually put a little bit of a light bulb over my head.
Yeah, and Bo needed that connection too, because his father left. He has his mother, he has his daughter, but he doesn't really have a social life. We never see him in Spain with other people. I mean, he's there, yes, hustling for extra cash. But now here's this opportunity, and there's one person, this strange man who he thinks is first hitting on him in the bus,
yeah,
who believes in him, and like, well, you can use your skills, your raw skills, become an NBA All-Star, and be able to provide for your family that you love. So now he has someone that they both need each other to believe in the other, to rise to where they need to go. It's nice. It's nice to see Queen Latifah there, but I think you're right. I think she was a little underused. She was there, but she wasn't a completely supportive spouse. I mean, she was able to tell him, you've got your family here. You've got, you're spending all this money on this guy. Don't forget about your family. But at the end, she knows why he did it, and she kind of encouraged him to quit his job. So just saying.
Yeah, that is definitely true too. Now, one thing with like sports movies like this, and we've seen like a number of sports movies over the years, that they tend to be a little bit cliched at certain points, because when you think about your typical like sports movie, it's always a team that's either like really really bad when they start off, or something bad happens to them and they have to kind of overcome, and it always ends with the movie. It's like, oh, the team won at the end. It's like, we overcame. So with this film, there was a couple of different roads that they took that didn't feel like it was quite as cliche as you thought it was going to be. Like, obviously, they starts off with him playing, pickup ball, and then just showing off like his skills. So it's like, okay, he's good when he's playing against pickup ball players, but how is he going to play against actual NBA quality play people? And so he goes to like his first tryout. He starts off really good, but then as you see, his conditioning isn't really there. Some of the guys starts picking him apart. His defense is really as strong as they want him to be. So that's why the 76ers say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and pass on this guy. He's not ready. But obviously, Alexander believes in him. So he has to train it. It's like, look, if you want to be NBA ready, you have to be prepared to play with these guys. These are the best guys in the world. So you have to prepare for the physical challenges, obviously the mental challenges, which is a thing that comes in like later on, because it's like when you're playing in the NBA, these guys are going to say like the worst things to you possibly can, because if they know they can get into your head, they're going to say whatever they can to like mess you up and throw you off your game. Like, that's just how the league is. So he has to get, in the physical condition. He has to get in the mental condition. And then, like I said, there's ups and downs in throughout the series of the film. Like, even the ending isn't your typical, like, a quote unquote good ending. Like, yeah, it eventually does get into the league, but it wasn't an easy road to get there. So, what do you think of as far as the journey goes for his player, and how he got from, like I said, street ball player to NBA player? Do you think that was a little too cliched, or do you like the way that they laid it out throughout the film?
Well, the montages were a little like, did a lot of the heavy lifting. They did a lot of the hard work, and the street ball one, you know, where they got all the social media to look at him, the one where they're doing the actual training, you know, where he's having to keep, you know, Stanley's in the car and he just keeps pushing him up the hill, him up the hill. I mean, I think that it was effective in terms of storytelling. It's just it's a little light on, you know, the substance aspect of it. I mean, we basically need to get from here to here, and that's basically the, you know, the heavy lifting of doing it, of the work. So it was fine. It just, again, it is a little cliched. It, you know, reminds me of that South Park. Is it Team America or is it South Park? You know, even Rocky had a montage. You know, that's that song.
I think it was Team America.
Team America, yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, we have to show this to get him from point A to point B.
Well, I actually like the fact that they showed that it takes a lot of work, a lot of physical work to get into that condition. It's easy for people who are in the stands to criticize a lot of these players, but I got to see. I'm assuming that this is how they train, because again, I don't play basketball. I was always the last guy picked. Just throwing that out there, but I never really thought about how hard it is, and you have to remember that he's not gone through schools to learn about this. He's kind of just doing this just a way to make extra money. So I really enjoyed those montages and those moments where you train and you see him go through all of these various techniques, which I would never have even thought about to get him into a condition. And when we had those montages, I loved some of the editing. I love some of the way the camera worked. The camera worked there. I thought I was really impressed. So I like those because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to make it into professional sports. Even when you've got like terrible players, I tend to cut them a little more slack because I know it takes a lot of hard work. Of course, if they keep failing, then that's different. The one thing I wasn't quite convinced with was the mental training. The guy, Stan, is telling him, well, maybe because Stan, you knew that he wasn't going to be really mean with Bo, but I didn't quite believe that just the kind of the taunting from Kermit made him like almost beat him up right there.
Yeah.
Combine. I didn't quite buy that, but you got to have like this last minute thing where you're going to give him a second chance out of nowhere. It's a little cliche. That's a little cliche, but it worked for me.
Yeah, because obviously, no one to jump on this one while we're still talking about characters in the film, is that Kermit, who was played by Anthony Edwards, talked about him a little earlier. He's an actual NBA player, plays for the Timberwolves. He plays essentially the villain to Bo Cruz. Like, he's the guy that's projected to be like number one overall in the NBA draft. So he's basically there to like show off and, you know, show people that he's that he's as good as advertised, right? So you have this new guy who no one's ever heard of is coming up the ranks, and all the buzz is around him. So he's basically there to like show him that, yeah, you're not as good as me, and I'm gonna get into your head. So he goes up there like the first time he shows him, and then basically shows him up like in the game. He meets him like again. He starts getting into his head, starts talking about his daughter, and that's where, you know, the guy like loses his cool because, you know, obviously the guy like loves his daughter a lot, but, you know, he hasn't had, you know, anyone like in his face to that degree, like getting into his head. So there's a couple of instances there where they're trying to show it's like, you know, they're trying to get essentially Bo up to his level, to Kermit's level, to be portrayed as, okay, he can go up there with like the best, right? Because this is a guy who came up from, you know, street ball, and he has an even harder road to prove himself than, like, say, a guy playing in the European League. Because European League, at least you're playing competitive basketball against other players. This is a guy from the streets. We don't even know if he can play team ball. He has more to overcome, and you're trying to put him up there against a guy who's like the number one overall pick, like in the league. So there's a lot going on there. Now, Rob, you had mentioned this on Twitter that someone had said that, you know, I guess one of these like media outlets were talking about how great what's his name, Anthony Edwards was in the film, like as a villain and whatnot. So do you think that his performance as the bad guy was a little overblown, or do you think that he was serviceable for the movie?
Well, I mean, an actor's job is to perform the material they're brought in to do. So it's nothing against Anthony Edwards. It's just the material itself is so thin and very much. I'm sure it didn't really challenge his experience for what he's done in his life. Like shit talk on the basketball court. So I guess my perspective was, Bo Cruz is sort of like this. He's like this big model of a basketball player. Like, he looks like a basketball player, which I just learned, by the way. He's a real basketball player in the NBA. Yeah. So that makes sense. Okay. He fit that very believably. But because I didn't connect to his character and like what motivates him, those insults don't land. Those insults don't mean a whole lot. It's just noise, dude. And that's kind of what Sugarman tells him later. Is like, it's up here. It's you against you. That's what you have to worry about, dude. That's who you're playing against, yourself. And so it's his job to try to get in your head, but it's your job to not let him, to just play your game. Yeah. So that was kind of like my point was, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like, I think it's great that an NBA rookie youngster can just step in and do a role like that and have it be believable, but let's keep it in context.
What you think?
Well, first off, like I said, I think I responded to Rob's tweet. I thought Anthony Edwards was the guy who played Goose. Okay, so when I saw his name, I'm waiting for him. That's how much I know about basketball.
Yeah,
he was fine. I have to cut him some slack because he's not a professional actor, but he did well. I really didn't believe that all those taunts would really break Bo down to the way that they did, because I don't know, they didn't seem to be as horrendous. Insinuating that he was going to try to get with his daughter, who's like elementary school kid. I'm going,
right?
Yeah, just really creepy. And but
he's basically saying like he was trying to be like his new stepdad or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess my reaction would not have been to explode with anger. I would have just been like, yeah, right. But that's just me. I didn't buy that, but I thought he was fine. I don't think that he was a breakout, or that he's going to go ahead and do a revival of Death of a Salesman anytime soon. So it was fine. Like I said, I have to cut all of these players some slack because they're not professional actors. I think the only one who has had a lot of acting experience is the big Serbian who does those goldfish commercials. That's as much as what I know. Yeah, that's as much as what I know. But it was fine. But I was not like, oh wow, this is a revelatory performance. He's going to be amazing. Yeah. It was good. It was good. It was acceptable for what it was.
That was a funny bit at the beginning of the movie where he's like going to like this word for a country. He's like, wait, you're how old? You're 20 years old? 22. It's like, dude, you look almost 40. And then like his son comes up. He's like, how old is he? He's like, he's 12. And then they come back like later on. It's like, yeah, the Dallas Mavericks are looking to sign him. Apparently they think he's 18. Right. It's like, come on now. Like he's getting like younger as each time goes on. What did you guys think of Ben Foster? Because I actually like Ben Foster. I think he's a great actor. But you think he was underutilized here?
I can't tell whether he's actually balding or if they put a bald cap on him, but some of his.
I mean, I've seen some of his recent movies, so it can go either way.
Yeah, I like Ben Foster.
I think he's balding.
Yeah, I think he's a good actor. He wasn't really given a whole lot to do in this movie. He has a few like interviews he does and like little confrontational scenes. I do want to say something real quick, and maybe I missed it. It's possible I just missed it, but. Does Adam Sandler ever get fired that's not on that TV interview? Like he learns he gets fired from his boss while he's doing that interview with the guy, and then he doesn't get his job back. It just happens by the end of the movie.
So what happened was that he actually quit because remember after the first tryout, he told him that he wasn't going to sign him. And he basically says, "Well, fuck you, I quit. I'm not going to take this job." And then he basically walks away. So he technically wasn't working for the Sixers at that point. He didn't tell Bo that he wasn't working for the Sixers when they were training, right? Because he was telling them, "All I'm going to do is get you in the combine." So Kenny Smith, who plays the agent in this film,
Right.
tells him that, hey, can you get my guy in the combine? 'Cause as long as you can get him in the combine, he'll get looked at, and he'll get signed. So I don't need to worry about my job. Like, can you get him in? And that was like the whole conflict. So towards the end, that's where Ben Foster fucks him over with the TV interview by saying that, oh, this guy has a criminal record. We were never going to sign him, and he was only brought here from a disgruntled employee. So no, he had quit before that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, like at the very end of the movie, it's just like, oh, he's coach again.
Yeah. Well, remember, it was the sister.
The sister hired him, and she took greater control than Ben Foster.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's probably that the sister hired him back. So, what did you think of Ben Foster, Rick?
I've been a big Ben Foster fan for the longest time. I'm sorry that he was stuck in that X-Men movie that was supposed to launch him into superstardom. It was like Angel, or he had the one with the wings. But I think he's been criminally robbed in Leave No Trace, Hell and High Water. These are he did
310 to Yuma was great.
Yeah, I think he was underused. I wish he had been a greater antagonist. And I don't know. I never understood why Vin was just. Well, I guess I can understand why he was just so hostile. But to me, he was underused, and I wish he had more scenes. But I'm a big Ben Foster fan, so I think he was underused. But it's always good to see him in anything. I just think the world of him as an actor. I hope he does more things, and that he get the recognition that he deserved. I don't believe the interview. I think, come on, someone committed an assault, and the NBA is going to be, oh my goodness, we can't have that.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about Malice at the Palace? Like, do you guys remember the Detroit Pistons Pacers?
Because
game?
no one in the NBA currently has a criminal record.
Exactly. So it's like, oh, you doth protest too much. But no, then with Ben Foster, I'll watch just about anything with him in it.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously the film is mostly shot in Philadelphia, like one of the major scenes. So that's kind of where like the core of like the cinematography and like the shots of the film. Like the whole film feels like authentic Philly. Like, of course, we gotta go get cheesesteaks. That's what everyone remembers Philly for. So it's either getting cheesesteaks or getting shot, and that's the only two things. If it's not like the the Philadelphia Eagles,
real locals get the roast pork. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll make a note of that. Roast pork. And there was no cream cheese anywhere?
Apparently not. Not for the one place that they went to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
And you all know that everyone's going to be going to that joint now. Like I said, they saw it in that Adam Sandler movie. That place is going to get so much business over the next few weeks now. It's like, oh no, that was in the movie. That must be the go-to place. Like, yeah. So I wonder how much they paid to get that plug in that movie. So obviously this film has a lot of like past and present NBA players in there. Like, they have cameos from like Shaq, Charles Barkley, Dr. J, like Allen Iverson. They also have a lot of current players like Aaron Gordon, Trae Young, who were trying out in the later stages of the movie. Obviously, like Luka, Dirk, that makes cameos. Do you think the film does a good job utilizing the cameos for the NBA players, or do you think they kind of missed the boat with that?
I mean, I think it's fine because like what the movie is an idea. I think ultimately it succeeds in doing that. And this is while we've been talking about this, as I've been thinking about it, they very much wanted to make like a behind the scenes, somewhat realistic look at this, the pursuit to become an NBA star, top 5, whatever. And I think like a lot of the movies I tend to like are more like they're more cinematic in their view of the situation. And so I think that's the divide. And a lot of Netflix movies, a lot of newer movies are kind of produced in that more or less real life or realistic vein. And I think that's kind of what I'm butting heads against. And using the cameo NBA players, using like Shaquille O'Neal and Ernie Johnson and the TNT on NBA crew or NBA on TNT crew. And all of that, it's very much the current moment, social media, the street ball thing at the park, being caught on social media. It's very much in the moment where we are right now. So I think ultimately, yeah, they did a good job with it. Did I really like it? Not really, but it's just there for kind of window dressing and to make it more, more directed to the NBA.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Again. This is the insider bit. I'm sure there were a lot of cameos that I had no idea who any of these people were. I recognize a few. Some were used kind of strangely, like when Stan is calling Dirk Nowitzki to try to get his, try to tell him, yeah, I'm on the up and up. I think like, no, you really can't act, but trying, thank you for trying.
Yeah, right.
Then you have that little montage with a social media thing where you had Allen Iverson pop up and Luka Doncic pop up, and so they're like really brief, so they really didn't have to act. They were just like, oh, look at this guy, I'm amazed.
Right.
Big deal. I like that they put Julius Irving. It was like, hey, someone I recognize.
Right.
Yep.
So that was fun, and he had a slightly more prominent role because he actually was in like 2 or 3 scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think they used them well. The only thing is, people who follow basketball and who know these players will get more enjoyment and be like, oh, look, there's so and so, and oh, look, there's so and so. Me, it's like, oh, okay, when's Goose coming out? I was
Right.
Still stuck on Goose.
Talk to me, Goose. I think they did well, but again, it's just more for basketball fans. And when they had Shaq and when they had Charles Barkley, at least it's within a context of reality. They because that's what they do now. They're commentators, so
Right.
you understand why they are commentating. So it's not like they just popped in out of nowhere. There was a logic to it. So I think it worked well for what it was.
Yeah.
All right, then. So I want to go ahead and move on to the final thoughts and kind of everyone's rating of the film. For me, obviously being somewhat of like an NBA fan, like I said, I don't follow the current NBA as closely as I would like to, but obviously I knew a lot of the guys that were in this film, a lot of the older guys, especially. I think it was pretty authentic to what life in the front office of an NBA team like is. And I think the movie was pretty authentic as far as a lot of those points. Now some of them may go over someone's head if you're not like a fan of basketball. You kind of like don't really know like, who the players are. So I can understand being lost as far as that one goes. But for me, I thought that they got a lot of things right more than they got wrong. Obviously, they could have played up the whole family aspect a little better. I think they missed the ball there. Queen Latifah probably not as utilized as great as she could have been. But I thought Adam Sandler was strong. I thought they got what they needed out of the NBA players. And like I said, we're talking about Netflix here. So, I mean, we're not talking about a streaming service known for its quality. So, when you get a film like this, you kind of got to like take what you can get. Overall, I say it was a nice blend of comedy, a nice blend of seriousness and whatnot. I would probably give this a 4 out of 5. Not my top number one movie of the year. I would say it's at least in the top 10 so far this year for best movies that I've seen. So I really liked it. I would definitely recommend it. Rob, what do you think of the film? What do you give it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right. I think it hits its main objectives and main notes, throughout. It's a humanist kind of, arc for both characters, both Adam Sandler and, the Bo Cruz character. And it does a good job of implementing those social media and NBA aspects of pop culture. I just, there's some things that hit me personally that I felt like weren't super well done. But it's totally fine as a movie. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
I did enjoy it. I didn't feel completely lost. I appreciated the story. It's a little paint by numbers. You have the inspirational aspect where this guy is going to succeed, and he's going to succeed. I like what you said, that it didn't go the way you expected it to at the end, where you find out he is playing, but not maybe in the way you think he would turn out. So I would give this a B minus. I was entertained. I was impressed by Adam Sandler. The NBA stars did well. So it's a little. Some of the parts were a little cliched, as Rob says, but it was entertaining. And I'll take issue though with Netflix not being quality. Come on, we had the power of the dog, thanks to them, I believe. It's one of the turning points in cinema. So how dare you, sir? How dare you criticize them?
I hate that movie. I hate that movie. I love
Not as
westerns,
much.
and I hate that movie. So I just
It's not great as kids were going. Did you give it a rating for the film?
Oh yeah, B minus, a B minus, a B minus. So
no, that's not bad.
yeah,
So I mean, overall, it's a solid movie. Like I said, for Netflix, it's probably like a masterpiece considering the stuff that you've seen. I mean, you're talking about the platform that has like Kissing Booth 4. So a film like this is almost a Mona Lisa by comparison, but it is definitely a solid streaming movie. Definitely recommend you guys watch it. You definitely won't be disappointed by it. It's entertaining enough. Well, we're coming up here on the 2 hour mark. I think this is a good time to wrap things up. We had a great discussion on Jurassic Park. Had a great discussion on film this week. Next week, we have two movies that I want to get our thoughts on. Obviously, the new Buzz Lightyear movie is coming out. I'm personally not looking forward to it. I don't know if any of you guys are
So,
looking.
do you know that I have not seen an animated movie in theaters? I think since I was a child. Like I avoid animated movies actually. So
I feel the same way that you do. Yeah. The last animated movie was probably the Lego movie, like maybe 5 years ago. That's maybe the last animated movie I've seen in theaters. It's been a while. It's very rare I come out to this one, but as you can see, it's not a very strong week, so you got to take what you can get.
Right.
And then I want to make sure that I get this one correct too for next week. There's another Netflix movie called Spiderhead with Miles Taylor and Chris Hemsworth that comes out next week as well. So I want to get a little bit of talk onto that one. So hopefully we'll be back next Monday. We'll talk about that one. Hopefully next week we'll get Matt from Matt's Movie Reviews to come join us all the way from Australia. So if you think that our time zones are all screwed up, you can imagine what he's going through right now. But before we go ahead and sign out, I want to give you guys time to kind of plug what you guys want to plug. So let's start off with Rob. Where can they find you if they want to see more of Rob Motto?
Yeah, so I have my Twitter handle right there because it's such a pain in the ass to like articulate to an audience. But yeah, there it is. You can also, I'm going to be starting writing movie reviews on a regular basis here soon on my WordPress, which is
nice.
mottoonmovies.wordpress.com. So find me there.
All right. Nice. And then Rick, go ahead and tell people where they can find you and your reviews.
Well, you could just type in Rick's Texan Reviews or Rick's Cafe Texan. I did not put in my Twitter, but I will next time. And yeah, I mean, I'll just keep writing reviews and also touching on television shows as well whenever I see them. I don't really do a lot of the streaming services, but it looks like I'm going to be doing more. Yeah, so that's pretty much my spiel.
All right, nice. So then, for me here on the site, just to let you guys know what I'm going to be up to for the next week or so. So Wednesday night, I'm going to be on the Black Pill stream with Spencer, Joss, and John Trent from Bounding in the Comics. That is Wednesday night on the Bounding in the Comics YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to them, subscribe to that one. We'll be talking about the big movie and TV news of the week. Then back here on Society Reviews, Friday night, we'll be here for the next episode of The Bar Room with myself. Josh will be back with us again. TW Booty Hunter will be back, and we'll also bring in Colt Cassie Cage. We'll also talk about some movie and TV news. Saturday night, we'll be doing the movie stream. We'll be doing Spinning the Wheel and selecting another movie. Last week, we watched Speed. We added the faculty to the wheel, so we could be watching the faculty. We could be watching several other movies. So catch that. That's a Twitch exclusive, by the way. So if you want to catch us on movie night Saturday night, you have to be on Twitch to see that one. And then, like I said, next week we'll be here talking about a couple of more films. So this is a great first episode. I think we did a lot of good discussion here. We'll be back next Monday. Hopefully Matt will join us. So for myself, Rob, and Rick, I will see you guys next week. Thank you very much for dropping by. See you later.